After months of hammering out a trade deal with Mexicans and Canadians, Democrats, led by Nancy Pelosi, are now insisting on new rules that would, among other things, quote, ensure Mexico enforces environmental protections and allows its workers to form unions freely. Now, the rift could delay or even block a congressional vote. So what happens if the new trade deal never gets passed?
Unfortunately, we go back to the old deal and we end up in the middle of a political hostage-taking situation. I mean, this is completely insane. The fact that they're talking about Mexican labor unions and the ability to organize into unions, what does that have to do with free trade? If you're in Congress, you're supposed to be representing the American people. This deal is better than the original NAFTA. So pass it, move on, let us move forward with our allies and do all the great things that we need to do, but we don't need more political theater and political hostage-taking.
This just shows the Democrats' hypocrisy. The White House worked very closely with anti-free trade senators like Sherrod Brown to get a deal that would pass muster with them, and then they pulled the rug out from under them. So two things. One is if we go back to the old NAFTA, that's fine. We could live with that very easily. But the uncertainty it's going to create for business investment when you don't know what the rules are going to be very harmful to all countries. I think President Trump eventually is going to have to do a national address and lay it out and say, put pressure on Congress, and you'll get enough Democrats to go along with it.
Steve, really I came from a state, Ohio, that got eviscerated by NAFTA, and I'll tell you, there's a lot of folks back there in Springfield, where I holler from, that would not want that. And I'll tell you, I mean, the numbers are just striking. The fact that we're buying over 70% of Mexican and Canadian exports, and they can't even equalize those things to any degree, is the fact that we've got to scrap NAFTA, and we better get something passed in a different way.
Trumpta, or what do we call this again?
USMCA, US, like United States Marine Corps with an A at the end.
Trumpta has some minor tweaks to NAFTA. They're not that much different. What we don't want, I agree with Steve totally. We don't want businesses being uncertain. Businesses can do well under either of these trade pacts. We don't want this thing dragging out and out and out where they have to delay investment.
But what about these rules, these new rules? I mean, Mexico, I covered Latin America. I know Mexico well. They have plenty of rules. They have many more rules than we do, but they never play by the rules. They're always violating. That's why the mordita, that's the word that you hear most often. You know what that means? It means a little bite. That's their word for bribe. I mean, everything is done by bribe. So to do what the Democrats want to do, even if it was a noble intention, is not going to get done.
Well, they're playing the game of imperialism. I mean, you've got to do it our way or we're going to tell you to get lost. And so this is a form of imperialism. The president should call them out on it. If you want to reform Mexico, go down and do some missionary work.
And it took us a long time to get this deal done. Can you imagine having to go back to our negotiating partners and go, just kidding, you know, right, we're so messed up here, we can't figure this out. If you want to build upon it, if you want to go back once we're in this agreement and say, hey, we've got some other ideas and things that we can do together, then fine, go ahead and do that. But to say that we're going to just completely throw this away and all the work that's been done, again, to me, it's political theater.
Do we really believe we're not getting a good enough deal from Mexico on trade? I mean, look at the U.S. car industry. It's the healthiest it has been in decades. We're doing plenty of work in Mexico, but it's helping us stay competitive. Here, look at the economy in the U.S. versus the economy in Mexico.
Yeah, but they're not making the cars here, and the numbers speak for themselves, guys. We're buying 70% plus of Mexican exports. We have the leverage. We're their customer. You use that then. You use that as a way to get them to come to the table for a good deal, unlike what we have right now.
What's the bad deal now?
They should be buying more of our stuff.
Well, if we don't offer them stuff they can afford or want, why should they be forced to buy it? What's this focus on they have to buy from us if we buy from them?
Scott, where were you 6 months ago when we were negotiating this?
Why didn't you read Adam Smith? I mean, he lays it all out.
It's totally unequal, though.
Go ahead, Scott.
I was going to say it's totally unequal, though. It's just like when Trump talks about the wall, Mexico paying for it. You've got to work something out on the trade side to make sure that there's some equilibrium on the fact that we buy so much of Canadian and Mexican exports. They don't buy any of our stuff, or very rarely some of our stuff. You've got to equalize that.
It's outrageous. I buy more from McDonald's than they buy from me. Or Forbes buys more from its paper suppliers than paper suppliers buy from us. Outrageous.
Yeah. Well, the one thing I think we can all agree on, without any clear rules, without any kind of definition of a trade policy, a lot of businesses are throwing up their hands. They're not going to know what to do.